Thank you for joining us on our journey here to preserve the history of mixed martial arts. When I wanted to take on this project, I needed help. I brought in one of my favorite matchmakers, Miguel Iturrate, and the MMA Detective, Mike Davis. So to do this, we've been able to preserve history. Welcome and enjoy.
Welcome back to the Lights Out Podcast. I am the MMA Detective, Mike Davis. Along with me, as always, Miguel Iturrate. And Miguel, we have a special guest joining us, Marcelo Tetel. Marcelo, thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. How are you guys doing?
Very good. So, Miguel, we've got a special edition. We're going to call this to Road to Royler, where we get our first look at Eddie Bravo with ADCC. Obviously, you were the North American representative, and Marcelo happened to be the referee for the qualifier. So we're going to kind of break down this qualifier, how everything came together. And Marcelo, you played a very key role in what took place that day, October 5th, 2002.
Yeah, I remember, it was a way long time ago, but I remember being the referee with my longtime friend, Lubo Gejev. We were there I was already the representative of ADCC in Brazil. And we were, touring the road with the referee, judging the matches.
So good. So Miguel, why don't we talk about how everything came together? So why don't we talk about the application process, how Eddie Bravo got into the qualifier? Was he invited? Did he apply? Would you mind bringing us through it?
Sure. As you mentioned, the historic match he was qualifying for was the Abu Dhabi 2003. And so this took place in 2002. This was our third year of doing trials. We'd already had trials before. And in San Diego, this was the first year we're going to try to do all the weight classes at once. And it was a show dedicated to just the Abu Dhabi style without MMA going on and the qualifier and the hook and shoot show like we've done in the past. So this was a step up. We got a lot of applications. And Eddie Bravo applied. His application was as a brown belt under Jacques Machado, which carries a lot of weight, but it was a brown belt. And at this point, we were getting black belts who applied for this stuff. And we'd already sent, like Antonio Nogueira had been a qualifier from North America. So what we were doing this year also is we were putting a stop to traveling, like the Brazilian black belts that could travel were not allowed to apply for this qualifier. So it was a big qualifier with a lot of attention, and it was definitely a step up. So when Eddie applied, he's a local California guy. I'm also promoting, so you have a lot of input, and then at the end of the day, people drop out. So he was a wild card for a bit. And then he was officially invited and came into there. But I think he's filled in his application, and he had to wait a little bit until he actually got approved to be in the qualifier. And when he did, from there, the rest is history. But I think he sweated it for the first couple of weeks.
So Marcelo, the first match that we see of Eddie in the ADCC was his bout against Mark Ashton from AMC Pancration, a Matt Hume guy. Why don't you walk us through the match, because there's a little something strange that takes place in it.
Yeah, he started with actually, a little before we had a rules meeting where we started to talk about some positions and what is allowed, what is not allowed, what worth points, what not worth points. Because people is used to make mistakes about the rules of ADCC because they are used to the Jiu-Jitsu rules, point system, the point systems and everything about Jiu-Jitsu. And it's a little bit different. We have the same concept, but the points are different and the rules are different. And we faced some difficulties in Brazil, and I already knew that, and I was ready to try to explain a little bit more for the guys. And we started with a rules meeting, and we started explaining everything, and suddenly we had someone raising his hand, and we started with the what ifs. Well, what if I do this? What if I do that? If I do this is allowed or not? And Eddie came with something really strange, a position that nobody was seeing yet. That point, the position was hitting more the spine.
Did he demonstrate these for you?
Demonstrated.
Okay.
And I said that one was not allowed, because at that time we had some problems with the ADCC didn't allow at that point to make any damage to the spine.
Yeah, the position. The original rules prevented cervical locks.
Yeah,
This could be interpreted as a cervical lock, and that was the part of the call. Later on, the official judges made an interpretation, but Tetel was there live making the call. So there was a point in the match where he achieved the position, he gets to it, and you actually had to stop and warn him. Do you remember that interaction?
Yeah. The point was to get to the position, he started to do a little neck crank on the guy. And I said to him, this is not allowed. And then he was like, no, but he started to argue with me during the fight, the match. And I said, no, this is not allowed. Please release the position. And then he started to do another move and other things. And he ended up in a hip situation, which is more comfortable, and everybody was comfortable with that. But actually, I asked him to release the position during the first match already.
So had Mark Ashton tapped at that moment or said he was injured, Eddie could have been disqualified.
Yeah, if he started to say something like, he probably could be disqualified at that point. He couldn't be, because I asked him to release the position, and that was, but he did. He was, he followed the instructions, and was not a problem.
For like observers, it was here in the first match too that you start to figure out that Eddie Bravo might be something special, because he's got this position. Now he's got a situation where the ref is telling him to release it. And he did work his way to the back and probably end the match within the next minute anyway. So
with 30 seconds.
Yeah, he had 15. He finished the fight without relying on that position that was banned. So that's kind of an impressive thing to be able to do that all in competition with pressure. And there was your first signal that Bravo was special. Now, did Jacques, who was in Bravo's corner, you know him from Brazil and stuff. What was he like? Because you've got Brazilian camaraderie. Now, this is an American student, but this guy put his name on it. What was that whole politics like?
Yeah, Jacques is a very good old friend. He is a legend, and at that time, he was one of the biggest rivals of my teacher at Carlson Gracie's studio, academy. I had Sergio Souza Bolão was my teacher and was the biggest rivalry in history of Jacques and Bolão. They were, crazy fighting in every tournament. And I knew him very well. And I knew that something from his team would be massive. And as well, he already had established his name on ADCC. He wouldn't put someone to compete on ADCC under his name if the guy was not that good, I knew that something good was coming from him. And he actually, after Eddie Bravo submitted the guy, he came to me and said, Tetel, what was going on? What he did wrong, and I explained it to him, about the neck crank and everything, and he was okay, and then he came to talk with Eddie, and they had a little conversation about, probably he started to change a little bit the strategy, for the next matches,
Yeah.
Was it a heated conversation between the two of you?
Yeah, I was there, they were, chatting a little bit, Jean-Jacques was showing some moves, some grappling, some arm drags and something for him, and they definitely changed directions for what they want to do for the
Yes.
trials,
Right. So shortly thereafter that, Eddie's second round opponent is Sean Crissa, who's from Canada, Borland combat team. There's not much on him other than an MMA record, and I could not find that video. Do you recall that fight, Marcelo?
I think that call was Lubo. I think I did not referee this fight. I was in the other match because we had two matches. And I think I was in the second match because we started the big ones I was ending the heavyweight divisions and Lubo was starting the quarterfinals.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
did you do
Lubo
the finals?
Sorry?
Did you do the Eddie finals?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I did. I did.
The finals are against Alan Teo, black belt under Renzo Gracie. I think he's a second-degree black belt right now. And that match was interesting because it kind of showed Eddie relax when dealing with lots of pressure. Like his opponent was using lots of energy when Eddie was not.
I think he was already very confident that he didn't have much Alan didn't have much to offer to him at that point. He was already very relaxed, very confident that he couldn't, overpass and overcome the situation. Alan was like, going to the battle, going to a war, trying, very hard, and he was really, really relaxed and, and being with Jean-Jacques in his corner. I think he was way more, comfortable because Jean-Jacques was predicting everything. No, now he's going to grab this and do that. He was almost, actually, I was seeing Jean-Jacques fighting on Eddie Bravo's position, that was very good to see, because it's always a pleasure to watch Jean-Jacques, and I was like seeing what he was doing, exactly what Jean-Jacques was saying to him, and looking to the corner, we never have to, we have to understand the guy was a brown belt at that point, although he was confident, he was facing himself against, black belts, and he was about to compete on the biggest tournament in the world. So
at one point, Eddie reverses Alan, and Alan grabs onto like a guillotine, but doesn't have it. And it appeared to me that he may have burned his arms out just holding that move for too long.
I think who did more the energy there was Alan,
Yeah.
I think he was guessing out at that point. And after that point, I think at that, if we had someone who would win that fight after the guillotine was Eddie, because Alan was probably guessing out way more than everything.
So during the bout, you're saying you're listening to Jean-Jacques speak, and kind of call out the moves. But when you watch the video, it's Joe Rogan that you hear yelling at Eddie to keep pushing, keep pushing. Joe Rogan is very prevalent during that match.
Yeah, but he was always looking to Eddie was always looking to the corner, was always, seeing what I had to do, what I have to do, he was not at the same point that he was very confident of what he would do. He was always maybe asking for permission, for approval to do that. Was very, very interesting to see.
So Miguel, what were the conversations like afterward with Eddie, Jean-Jacques? What were those conversations like?
Well, I knew Jacques because, he'd been to Abu Dhabi. He had fought Renzo. So this final, it's interesting that Tetel says that, Renzo was not there. So it was Jacques in one corner and Teo and his team did not have their master there. So, maybe that makes a difference. I didn't really speak to Jacques after that. What I do recall an interaction with Eddie Bravo that was interesting, and it probably happened at the venue because Eddie's a local. I don't think he was at the hotel. And I was walking sort of alone, after the show, and he came up to me, and I remember very vividly his saying what he wanted to know was, I did it, and you didn't think I could do it. He wanted to kind of get that off, like, yeah, I surprised, what'd you think, kind of thing. I don't know if he challenged Royler at that moment, but the idea that he would fight Royler Gracie in Abu Dhabi came up either shortly after there, or they had him targeted, I think, as well. But it started all with, you didn't think I could do it. Now and then later on, I think it was in an email later, but later on he said, well, I'm going to do this too. And then that's when the idea of him beating Royler came up.
So he was asking for Royler. You're saying.
Yeah, I think at some point he won. He knew he was going down to Brazil with that. That was the match he asked for in the first round and didn't get. So yeah, he won. That's the one he won. I think he wanted to win the world title too. He got Royler, but I think in his head he pictured it in the finals and everything beautiful, right? But no, it's Abu Dhabi's not that easy, so it didn't wind up exactly perfect for him. But he did get the idea of him fighting for Royler. He presented before the Abu Dhabi's in Brazil.
That's fantastic. Marcelo, what were your takeaways from that event outside of obviously Eddie Bravo's rise?
Now that Miguel is mentioning, I remember after the match, the final match, I remember I was talking to Jacques, and Jacques said, the guy is really good, man. He should deserve to do this and stuff. Now I can understand, because I didn't know that Miguel was giving them a hard time to put Eddie Bravo on the qualifiers, And now I can get the point, When Jacques was talking to me, was really probably trying to complain a little bit about the organization and how hard it was for Eddie, and was like the same way that Eddie was talking to Miguel about, I can do it. Jacques was talking to me because we were, more close, and he was, all the time talking. The guy deserved the position of being here in the qualifiers,
So you can kind of see it though. I mean, it's a small tournament. It's an 8-man tournament, so there's only so many applications. You guys, Miguel, you said you positioned yourselves to where the Brazilians that could travel could not qualify in North America. So you've got to stack this thick of applications, and you can only pick 8. Like, that's, to even be invited to a qualifier is an honor.
Well, the thing about Eddie Bravo too, what you have to remember is at that time, and he hasn't really separated himself as a guy who competed a lot. So at that time, he hadn't competed really. He hadn't really been seen on the national scene. And he was known as an announcer for King of the Cage. So, very few people that do like announcing and then, I'm going to do a fight too and things like that. Very few people wind up being really legitimate. And he was. But he did have to carry a little bit of that. Like, is he an announcer or is he a fighter? Because if he's, if he thinks fighting is going to advance his announcing career, it's not going to last very long. But it didn't work out that way. But we had to factor all that in at the time in 2002.
Well, and if you're going to, use a platform to push your announcing career, it should not be at the biggest stage in the entire world, So you can also understand your position as well.
Yeah. And here's the other part of it too. not to go too far off it, but Abu Dhabi in 1998, when they started, already filled out 16-man tournaments in 5 weight classes and did an absolute. They already dealt with the 100 fighters in a weekend, right? But some guys didn't really belong. There were a few guys that really did, Rafael Torre, for example, competed and doesn't have the level really to compete there.
I think Anthony Macias, there's a couple guys. Yeah.
There were, some guys with MMA interests and things like that, but there were definitely Ryan Apolinaro was another guy that I think had a vast record, in the dojo kind of thing. But anyway, the point is there was very much concern over not allowing anybody but real fighters into the tournament. And I don't want Bravo's a real fighter and he was a brown belt with a very high recommendation, but you do worry because of the King of the Cage announcing and stuff, and what's his motive on there? Is it to promote himself or to really promote jiu-jitsu? And it was all considered. So it worked out good.
I was on Miguel's shoes down here in Brazil for a while, and I know what he's talking about, because we have so many guys knocking my door, asking to compete without, any criteria. And we had to, filter a little bit the situation, because otherwise we could have anyone competing. We had so many talents that couldn't compete, and so many guys that we brought to the road. Hani Yahya came to the road after ADCC qualifiers. Marcelo Garcia came for the road. Marcio Peripano, so many guys, that came to the road after a qualifier.
Yeah, and, that's a good point. Is with that many qualifications, you let a joker into the tournament and leave legit people out, it's a really bad sign. So
you're gonna get yelled at
again.
Publicly.
Bravo to Bravo because he held up his end. He said he was going to do it, and he did it. And that's really the story. There is that he backed it up.
He put his money where her mouth is. He did.
That's exactly.
He did.
So the next time we see Eddie Bravo is in Sao Paulo, and he's got a mountain. So we'll be back for part 2. Mike, I'll let you wrap.
We're gonna be back with part 2. And, we also, Miguel, we got Abu Dhabi Jiu-Jitsu Pro in Orlando, April 16th, ajptour.com. Please register, both gi and no-gi divisions. Marcelo, do you have any plugs, gyms you're working at? Please tell us.
Oh, thank you, man. Just thank you very much of being here. You guys are amazing. Thank you.
Marcelo is one of the superheroes from the early days, one of the hardest workers. I'm very glad to have reconnected with him, and you're going to see him here again on the Lights Out podcast.
Yes, no, we definitely, especially with Abu Dhabi and the jiu-jitsu history. Marcelo, your phone is going to get a workout with us, so we sincerely appreciate you joining us. Thank you, sir.
The honor, sir.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.